there it is, and the wise people that I've read, often associated with the establishment of the Christian church. Actually, this seems to be something that was a continual topic of discussion, noted continually that we do things that we can't control, and we're subject to forces that we can't control. And those are forces that are associated with our own destiny, I suppose, certainly our own conscience. You just have to watch. You find out who you are. I'm the person who has to say this. Why? I don't know exactly, but I know that if I don't do it, there's going to be a price.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the sections of your book that I really loved, it was chapter 2, where you get into alchemy and you get into, a discussion of, it was one of the richest chapters for me.
Helen Lewis said I sounded like a stoned undergraduate.
I must like stoned undergraduates. It was so
interesting, because she wrote this review in the Atlantic, and I was talking about, sorry, I'll let you get back to this right away, but
sure.
She was talking about, I commented on this, the snitch in Harry Potter, because I found that it's a very old symbol. That's a really old symbol. It shocked me to death that she used it. I couldn't believe she used it because it's really obscure, this symbol. And so I talk about it in the book. And that's what she dismissed as the ravings of a stoned undergraduate. But then I thought, well, look, Rowling is richer than the Queen. She came from nothing. She produced this empire. It's an absolute empire. Books that were 600 pages long that she could read to children in stadiums. A whole string of movies that dominated the entertainment landscape for like 6 years. It was a global cultural phenomenon. It's like, well, don't you think that's worth looking into? That's what makes you a stoned undergraduate? Or are you so clueless that you can't see that when something like that happens, there's a mystery? It's why in the world would the story of a magical orphan become a multi-billion-dollar, decades-long global cultural phenomenon? Well, if you're interested in culture, if you're interested in anything besides narrow politics, you'd think that would be worthy of investigation. It's not easy to see these things sometimes for the mystery that they are.
No doubt.
So,
and I think it's what you say about stories. Stories can be true stories. The story of Harry Potter and the Snitch is a true story because it's in resonance with a real idea, something that's in the collective consciousness, something that's in our primordial psyche in a way. And so when we hear it,
otherwise
portrayed,
it wouldn't be collective.
Exactly.
We wouldn't all enjoy it. And look, we can go to those movies. We suspend disbelief willingly, instantly, and we get immersed in the story. That's magic. That's magic. What's going on? It's worthy of investigation. Yeah. So anyways, I sort of sidetracked that.
Well, that's actually exactly where I was going. So okay. I'm going to read this section, and you're talking about the snitch as the alchemical symbol of the round chaos. And you say this: the seeker is the person who is playing the game that everyone else is playing, and who is a disciplined expert at that game, but who is also playing an additional higher order game, the pursuit of what is of primary significance. The snitch, like the round chaos, can therefore be considered the container of that primary significance. So for those of us who don't know the Harry Potter movie, there's a game called Quidditch, and it's basically like lacrosse, and you try to get the ball in the goal, but there's a seeker who actually is seeking this magical golden orb, which has alchemical kind of roots in the round chaos. And if they seek that, the game is over, and it's been given that, additional, as you say, primary significance. And this concept was really, really interesting to me to have it unpacked, because I watched some Harry Potter and I saw it and I saw the game. That, of course, didn't occur to me. It was just like, oh, this is the rules to this game. But then I realized in my own life, there's the game that I'm playing. Oh, I'm running on it and I'm doing these things. But what is my snitch? What is my round chaos? What is that ultimate higher order potential that I'm seeking? And so my question was, have you thought about for you, because we can obviously see the game being played as far as the normal Quidditch game, but for you personally, what is your snitch? What is your round chaos that you're seeking, the game within the game that you're playing at large?
Well, what's always attracted my attention predominantly So let me unpack some things here. Is
Sure.
that some of the interpretation of that symbol, a lot of it came from my reading of Jung, because he's the only person that I've ever read who seems to know about such things, even knows that they exist. Jung believed that your interest, which is a relatively involuntary phenomenon, right? You get interested in things, but you can't make yourself interested in something. The interest grabs you and grasps your attention. And so Jung thought of that as a deeply seated biological mechanism, which it obviously is. It's a neurological mechanism of some sort that governs, it has the capacity to possess your voluntary attention, just like hunger does. When you get hungry, you're typing away, writing a book or something, and you get hungry, hunger starts to grab your attention. Well, look, you're interested in some things and you're not interested in others. Well, why? Well, some of that has to do with your choice, but not that much. A lot of it has to do with who you are in the deepest sense. And Jung believed that you were likely to become interested in things that furthered your development, furthered your psychological development, made you more and more competent. So, for example, you might get interested, you might really come to admire someone, and so what they do grabs your interest. And that happens with children quite a lot. And they get interested in kids who are slightly ahead of them in the developmental curve. And then they mimic them. And so the interest is something that grabs you to move you forward on the developmental curve. And so it's the manifestation of your potential higher self in the present. And Jung described that as the self. The self was, in his view, the totality of your being. It's not definable. It includes you in the future. And you are, in some sense, something that's coming to be into the future. Hopefully to be more than you are, although, not always, because we also degenerate. In any case, your interest pulls you along on a particular developmental pathway. I've always been gripped, in some sense, by things that are very, very dark. And most of what's by pathology of one sort or another, which is, of course, partly why I'm a clinical psychologist, but I wanted to remediate it. I wanted to help, but it was the compulsion to investigate the darkest of darkness. And whether that's been good for me or not, well, that's a different question. I suppose it has been extremely good in some ways, and it's been complicated. We could certainly say that, but then more, I wanted to figure out what would protect us from that darkness. And I guess it was because I was so shocked, existentially shocked, when I first encountered writings that pertain to the Holocaust and to other genocidal acts of that sort. And I was always interested in that for some reason from a psychological perspective. It's like, what compelled people to do that? And how can we not do it again? And that, so anyways, anything that focused on that grabbed my interest. That's why I read Jung